Stand by for action.
And hello. My name is Dave Milner. I am the Unpleasant Blind Guy, and I appreciate your blowing some more of your time to listen to me. It's always a constant source of amazement and great gratitude when you do that. And we've got some things we want to get to in the newsy, but before we do that, I want to talk about a few other things. First of all, I want to cover websites. There are great websites like The Blaze, RedState.com, The Daily Caller, sites like this that have a lot of fantastic information out there that defenders of freedom are trying to pass around and use to illustrate that we have a long way to go in the fight for personal liberty, and people need to be told about these news stories that occur on these websites. And there's a bit of a problem that comes with this. And I'm talking about the pop-up ads that come up on these websites, because a lot of them are so good now that they negate the protections of some of the web browsers. This needs to be redone. Now, I understand people wanting to make money. I'm a capitalist. I believe in making money, and I hope that these websites make a pile while they're helping us in the fight for personal liberty. That's wonderful. I have a problem, though, when the advertising on these websites begins to interfere with the content. When we share a link with people on Twitter or Facebook or through the email, whatever, that link should be instantly available to the person who clicks on it. In other words, the story that link points to should be the first thing that they see, not a pop-up ad that says, "Please click on this X if you would like me to stop annoying you." What that makes some people do, I know it's what makes me almost do whenever I look at some of these, is to just say, to hell with this. If I'm interested in this story, I'm going to look somewhere else, because I've just been annoyed by an ad. Now, again, no problem with ads, but let's keep them on the web pages themselves and have the stories instantly available upon a person's clicking on these links. I think by doing that, we're going to do a lot of good. Now I'm going to talk about something that could actually lose me the 2 or 3 listeners that I have. Hope it doesn't, but it's something that I'm going to have to talk about. It's been something that's been bugging me, and in fact, it's something that kind of spurred me that final way into beginning doing my own stupid podcast. I first noticed this after the end of the 2012 election, going into 2013, and it got worse and worse as we got closer and closer to events like CPAC and some other things that popped up just after that time, and other places. There are a lot of wonderful talk show hosts out there, bloggers and whatnot, on the right. These people are role models. I have lots and lots of respect for them. They do 10 times the work that I do for personal liberty. I hope that one day I can become a 10th as good as they are, but they're not infallible. No one is. And yes, I include myself in that. What's been going on lately is that people who write blogs and things like that have been increasingly told to shut up. They've been said, you can't or shouldn't say this thing about this politician because that helps the left, or you shouldn't be saying that it's a bad thing for someone to publish an article on BuzzFeed because that gives them legitimacy because that's not the right thing to do. We should never say a bad thing about someone else on the right. Blah, de blah, de blah. Okay. My problem here is that the people on the right are about principles. We're all about principles. Whether we're social conservatives, economic conservatives, libertarians, it doesn't matter. We have our views and we hold to them deeply. We're not the left that all think the same way. We don't have a hive mind here on the right. We are the free thinkers of the 21st century. And we must express ourselves. And we must also remember to treat each other with respect. Not to denigrate each other, talk to each other as if we're minor children or anything of that nature. As I say, I have enormous respect for all of these talk show hosts. People like Glenn Beck, Dana Lash, Tammy Bruce, and even some of the, what some might call downstream ones like, say, Small G Gay. All right. But none of these, and no bloggers, and I, again, include myself in this, no one is so cool that they have the right to tell other people that they can't speak to their principles. We have to do that. If we can't speak to our principles, the left wins. Whatever happens, the left wins at that point. Now, that's not to say that these people can't express their opinions, but they should remember that we can express our opinions too. That's part of what this great new media is. It's about expressing opinions. It's about ordinary people expressing their opinions. It's about not having to go to journalism school or go through some authority or something like that to say what we think and to say how we feel and say how we believe certain things affect certain other things. It's about freedom. It's about freedom of speech. It's about freedom of opinion. And we should all be respectful of each other when it comes to that. Now, here's the deal that I propose. Not that any of these people, would ever even know that I'm alive, but here's the deal I propose. I won't tell you to shut up, and you don't tell me to shut up. If I say that I think that it's ill-advised for someone to publish an article on BuzzFeed because it might give them legitimacy, I don't need to be talked down to. And I'm not going to talk down to you because you might have a certain view on abortion or you might have a certain view on whether or not worshiping God is required when you're engaged in the fight for personal liberty. All right? I might disagree with that, and I might say that that's my opinion, but I'm going to do it with respect because we're all on the same side. Yes, we do have some opposing views, but that's fine. And again, I hope that doesn't lose me listeners or anything like that. I know that if any of these people, any of these big bugs hear my view, they might talk mean about me. But, hey, if I do lose listeners or if some of these people do speak to me in a denigrating way, I can't care. I have to speak the truth, and I have to speak what I feel, because that's what we're about. And something else that I'll say to my brethren out there, the big ones and the small ones, we should always make sure of our facts when we report on stories and whatnot, because the left are in full freak mode, not only calling us racists, but calling us conspiracy theorists. That's one of the things that I intend to try and do, is check my facts before I talk about news stories. And yes, Dana Lash does have a point when she talks about this in regard to the Marco phone story. That was quite real. It's quite real that was apocryphal. And people should have checked that. They should have read further into it. It's a trap that's easy to fall into. A lot of people do it, including a lot of mainstream media, traditional outlet people who report on these things. So we have to be careful, all of us. So yes, let's all be careful. Let's all be respectful of each other. And let's all continue this fight for personal liberty, because it's way worth it. And now, I want to get into a little bit of news. Okay, the first story that I have comes from that conspiracy theory rag, the Baltimore Sun. Okay, this was published on April the 24th, and it has to do with the fact that that there was a federal indictment issued for 25 people, including 13 female corrections officers. And this was for charges for everything from money laundering to racketeering. Pretty nasty stuff. Now, that in itself isn't unusual. What's unusual is the fact that these were female corrections officers. This happened in the Baltimore City Jail. All right. Evidently, a gang leader, a man leading the Black Guerrilla Family Gang, from inside the jail, set up his own little empire where he was able to run money, drugs, other contraband through the jail. He was able to organize reprisals against people who crossed him and didn't do what the gang wanted. And in his own words, said basically that he was the law in the jail, that his word was law in the Baltimore City Jail. Now, this story came out in a pretty busy week where the left was busy trying to excuse the Boston bombers and find any other reason for them having done the bombing than radical Islam. So it was pretty easy for this story to be missed. Now, they happened to catch this story at the Blaze, and I happened to hear it on Real News in their Island of Misfit Stories segment. The Baltimore City Jail, under the authority of this gang leader, was basically put there by jail officials who asked him to keep incidents down, and in return they would look the other way when he did things. And things he did. The stuff that I mentioned before, and plenty of personal goings-on for himself, including getting 4 of the female corrections officers pregnant. 2 of these, by the way, had some rather interesting tattoos personalizing them to him. One of them having a tattoo on her wrist, the other having a tattoo on her neck. Now, maybe you guys out there can help me. Who was it in the 2012 election that said the Republicans were going to put people back in chains? I think that might have been Joe Biden. Yeah. I'm pretty sure Joe doesn't know anything about this story, though. And if he did, he would probably dismiss it. I'm equally sure that if this story took place in, let's say, the Mobile, Alabama jail, and the gang leader was a white leader of a supremacist Aryan-type gang, we'd be hearing a lot more about this instead of being an African-American leading a gang called the Black Guerrilla Family Gang. I just somehow think we'd be hearing a little more about it if the other was the case. This is one of the things that really just hits you like a 2x4 on the side of the head. And it just makes you view America in a different way. I mean, this is what we have become. While we're busy trying desperately not to offend Muslims, we have gang leaders running our jails. There's something deeply, deeply wrong with this, people. We need to be made aware of this. We need to make other people aware that things like this are going on. I mean, who knows that this isn't happening in lockups all across the country, or at least 2 or 3 more in the larger cities. Gangs are extremely powerful now, and this administration is turning a blind eye to that. And hey, I am the unpleasant blind guy, so I can say a blind eye. While they're trying to disarm honest, law-abiding American citizens. Seems a bit of a dichotomy to me. Now let's turn to another story that kind of caught my eye. Ben Affleck. I know a lot of you people who like movies and love movie stars love you some Ben Affleck, is doing something for charity, trying to raise awareness about hunger, I think, in another part of the world than the United States of America. I'm not absolutely positive about that one, but I am absolutely positive about this. Our hero, Ben, is going to be living on only $1.50 a day worth of food. And grab onto something, folks. He's going to be doing it for 5 whole days. That's right. 5 times 24 hours. Our hero, Ben, is going to be living on $1.50 worth of food a day. 5 days. Now, I don't know if he can handle it. I hope he can. You may want to stay tuned to your local EMS stations just to make sure that there isn't an alert during this time, because we want to be careful that the guy doesn't just dry up and blow away. Now, I'm being a bit sarcastic about this because I have been done for some time with celebrities claiming that the government has to do something about poverty while they themselves are living in ridiculously expensive houses, driving ridiculously expensive cars, going to parties that could feed a family of 4 for a year. All of these things, pretty much talking out their rear ends. I do have a solution for this, though. See, I like to not only point out a problem, I like to offer a solution if I possibly can, and I think I've got one for the Hollywood and music industry and entertainment industry celebrities out there who constantly badger everyone for socialist policies to help the poor. To them I say, give up 90% of your money. If you're worth $1.2 million, all right? If you're worth $1.2 million, give up 90% of your money. That means you can only live on $120,000 per year as an individual. Now, I do this show for people who don't have a lot of money. So let me ask you this, guys. You think you could live on $10,000 a month? I think I could probably struggle through. And I think so could they. I think they could struggle through too. Now, are they going to actually take my solution to heart? Probably not. But there it is. We'll see if they do it. Meanwhile, I'll put out some monkey chow and make sure I sleep on my stomach for a while. Now, I'm going to point out another great story here, one that I like a lot. As you know, I want to point out a story every time I do a podcast of Americans being fantastic, the great people that we are. And part of that is our patriotism, because that's something that I consider to be just part of who we are. We are a patriotic people. We love our country. We love the people who serve it. And it just kind of gives us a warm fuzzy every time we see these stories. And it should. Now, this story is one that probably a lot of people have heard about. It concerns a 12-year-old student named Cejai, Sajai, whatever, Taylor. I can't pronounce her name, so I'm just going to spell it. Now, little Ms. Taylor goes to school at the Fort Campbell Army Base Middle School. Okay, she wanted to start a red T-shirt day. This for wearing red T-shirts that say "Support our troops." Pretty cool thing, I think a lot of people would think, and you would figure that that on a Kentucky Army base, no one would have a problem with this. Well, someone had a problem with it, and she was sent home. Now, there are couple of cool things about this story that I want to point out. First of all, she got complete support from her mother, who said that she was behind her 100%, and also from her father, Sergeant James Taylor, who is currently deployed. She was told that she had his complete support, that he was very proud of her and couldn't wait to see her again, which is really awesome. And the story actually does have a happy ending, and that's the reason why I wanted to kind of talk about it here. All right. Cindy Gibson, who's a spokesperson for the Department of Defense Education System, told The Blaze when they asked her on Wednesday that patriotic T-shirts will now be permitted on what they call dress down days, which is usually a lot of people it's the casual Friday thing. So there you have a happy ending to that story, and yet another example of how Americans are a fantastic people. We support those who serve us. We try to do what we can to serve them in every way we possibly can, and that includes our kids. That's about all for me this time. Thank you for listening, and may your God go with you. Goodbye.